Welcome back to the Shed of Basketball Truth for episode 200. This is the 200th podcast we're bringing to you as part of Ball Don't Lie, but this one's a little bit different. This one is down, not done. Too often when players get injured, it's they'll be back. Godspeed. We wish them the best, and we just move on. We don't stop and really, deep dive anything related to that player from that point on until we get back, and then shallow questions, that sort of thing. And it's always kind of irked me that that's the way things were often done in that space, and especially considering how truly uncomfortable these injuries, not just the physical stuff, but the mental side as well, can be for these players. And nothing was ever really discussed much in that kind of space. So during the off season, after her gut-wrenching injury in the grand final series, I had a chat with lovely Erin Bollmann, and she agreed to come on board, not just as to come and tell her story, but to come on this ride and really help give that player's perspective and deep dive and ask those questions that she knows the process. She's only just been through it, about having a major injury, what kind of mental challenges and different things there can be in that space, and to give this series real validity. She does a great job of that, because I can talk about all kinds of stuff from the outside, but she's done it, she's lived it, she's making her road back. Has come through that injury now and is looking now to take off with the Sunshine Coast Phoenix. But this is a chat. This first episode is me just sitting down with Erin, trying to really deep dive her story, and not just starting at the injury, because of course that's not where Erin started. Going back, working through, talking through her basketball journey up to the injury, and then through the moment of the injury, through those difficult times, through those recovery times, and to when she was first started playing back during the Elite Summer League, as well as when we sat down and did this interview. It's absolutely fantastic. Thank you to Erin for joining. Thank you to everybody who joined for this series. But like I said, without Erin, this series just doesn't have the same validity in my mind, because she's been through it and she just truly opens up, and then is able to allow others to open up and talk through what they've both been through at the different points through this series. But let's get into episode 1 of Down, Not Done. Okay, and I'm sure you've spoken about it before, but where did your basketball journey begin?
Yeah, when I was 8 or 9 years old, my parents went and put me in every single sport possible. And I think basketball was the one that my brother also played. So I wanted to...
Family competition.
Yes, always. That's where the edge comes from. So I played basketball, volleyball, and softball. And then once I got older into high school, I realized that maybe basketball is a career path that I could take. I was getting a couple scholarship offers.
Good choice so far.
Yeah, it's not been bad. It's not been bad. I still couldn't use my right hand at the time, so I didn't know what college coaches were seeing, but maybe the potential was there. I was the potential case.
The fact that you could probably go left was probably what they were saying.
Maybe.
They just assumed you had the right.
Yeah, so, absolutely. Yeah. So when I got to about my senior year, I decided that I would go forth and play basketball. In college, I had a couple of Division II offers. I didn't have any Division I offers at the time, so I thought that the best route. Oh yeah, that's why we get along, because of our success in basketball. No, I got to I had a friend of mine who played as well, and she was going to a junior college at Three Rivers Community College. And I was like, okay, maybe that's the route to take. And it was a local college. So went there for 1.5 years until some things that we'll talk about later happened. And then after that, I transferred over to Southeast Missouri, played 2 years under 2 different coaches there. And then, took a year off, was trying to start life. And out of the blue, a text message from my coach, my senior year of college, said, "Do you still want to play overseas?" And I was like, "Yeah, duh. How about Australia?" Like, even better.
Australia.
Yeah, I can't understand what they're saying, but it was almost like a normal job interview. They called me. It was a Keeler Thunder Basketball Association, and they called me, asked for video, asked for a resume, and a phone call, and then a video call. And they told me later that out of 26 candidates, in quotations, that they decided to choose me as a 3-4 player. And that, just changed the course of my life in basketball forever. And I got asked back the second year. We didn't do too well that first year. Got asked back the second year. And in between those 2 years, I was like, I'm going to work so hard because I want us to win so bad. So I went home for 4 months, came back. I was like 10% body fat. I looked gross. Like, it was not the greatest. Well, it was a great version of myself, but I was a hump of meat.
But says the dream, mate.
I've been talking like it's poor, but it was just, I was walking around with no movement of my shoulder. And so we did much better that year. And it wasn't just me. The whole team was so good. And we got all the way to finals and lost in the third game. Not that I know anything about that.
We'll get to that recent history as well. Don't worry.
It's too fresh. So then after that, I got some offers from NBL1 teams. I signed with Diamond Valley, and then COVID hit. So that's when I went back home and took a year and a half off and was a general manager at a restaurant for the first time. And it's just like coaching. It's exactly like coaching, just trying to get a team together and work at the same common goal. And then I got an offer from Darwin to come back after COVID kind of settled down, and played there for 2 years collectively. So even on the off season, played locally. And then after those 2 years, wanted to come to Brisbane and try Brisbane out, because the big thing is I really wanted to travel. And so, and then last year I got to play for Northside.
Ain't no place like Brisbane, mate.
It's a lot warmer than Melbourne. It really is.
Really, really is. Really, really it is. But look, let's jump in. Junior college.
Yes.
It obviously ended sooner than you initially planned.
Yeah.
After being an All-American. Mm-hmm. Third team. Yeah, it's tricky. Anyway, All-American.
Yes,
yep.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, no worries. With the fullness of time, what led to, the tap on the shoulder? We need you to not be here anymore.
Yeah, and I used to be almost embarrassed to talk about this because after that lesson I learned from all that happened in junior college, my biggest one was that it was my fault. It's all accountability. And with some of the ways that I grew up, and I didn't learn those lessons. So I essentially it was my second year. I had some things happen during the summer that year that completely wrecked my mentality as a human and valued. And I can talk about that a little bit later. But I came back with just like a bitterness and an inability to get over what happened over the summer. And basketball was my last priority. And I could not cope. I didn't learn the skills to cope. I didn't know how to get over things. So I just ruminated and took it out on everyone else. And it was absolutely not my best version of myself at all. And looking back, it makes me really sad, but I give myself grace that at the time I didn't know what else to do. And so with that being said, I didn't listen. I had no discipline, was showing up a little bit late to practices or not really caring at all. There was a curfew violation here and there. And I wasn't treating people properly, even my own friends, people I really, truly cared about. And it was just, all of it was deflection. And so I was asked to sit one game, and right a day before that game, I was injured. So I hurt my knee, I subluxed my patella. So I was injured for 11 collective games and sat there, and I don't even have any memory of sitting there watching it, but I remember the feeling of not being there. And having what happened over the summer and having all this bitterness, and then on top of that, not being able to play the one thing that I'm good at, was just depleting. I X'd everyone out of my life. I remember I used to lay under my bed, and it wasn't a tall bed. I just used to lay under my bed and think about how sad I was, and didn't know how to get out of it. I had no clue what that was like. It was my first injury ever. And it was 3 months. And when I got back to it, I had laid my bed with a lot of things that I had already decided to be like. And so I had a bad reputation with my head coach, absolutely warranted reputation with my head coach. But again, there was no help at the time. There was no one to talk to. So then when I came back to basketball again, I was very excited to be back, but I still had all that residual like bitterness and angry kind of tendencies. And then a couple games in, I played pretty well. Not just coming back from 3 months of injury, I was a little bit out of shape. And then a friend of mine that was on the team, she had a boyfriend that was out of town. It was 3 hours away.
Bad combination.
Yeah. I should have known. So 18-year-old Erin thought that it was a great idea if she went and picked him up and for her birthday, brought him to the dorm rooms to hang out with.
What could possibly go wrong?
Yeah, my goodness. And at the time, when he got in the car, he smelled of an interesting smell of the greenery. And instead of telling him to get out of my car, I just was like, oh, nothing bad is going to happen. And again, I wasn't making the right decisions. I was almost trying to play catch up with trying to be nice and be a better friend. And so I brought him on campus, and he got caught smoking weed on campus. And I was the person that brought him there. So I had to sit 2 more games after that. So I collectively sat 14 games at that time of a 22-23 game season. And by that situation, and my family has been Xing me out. Like, my family's absolutely disappointed in me. I was drowning in sadness and depression and did not know. Like, the first year I was on cloud 9. I was going to church. I was doing all these things with my friends. It was awesome. And then the second year, it was almost like reality hit me that I am actually at the core not great, not doing well. And so at that point, I quit and I stopped trying, and I stopped caring about discipline again and acting out. And my coach said, you get 1 more strike or you're kicked off the team. And I got a curfew violation, and that was it. Kicked off the team, kicked out of housing. Was
there any bounce back time in that space, or did you just, okay, yep.
No, I was absolutely devastated. My dad was always out of town. We lived about an hour and a half away. I had to move back in with him, and he was out of town 6 out of 7 days. So after this thing happened, I was at home alone for 6 days. As someone who doesn't know how to handle any problems, any issues, I can't cope. I'm sitting there every single day blaming everybody else for the situation. And I couldn't even make it upstairs. I'd blown up a couch to watch TV on, because I didn't even want to go upstairs, and I'd hurry up and unblow it when my dad was home. And it was detrimental. It was awful. And 2-3 months went by. I had to drive an hour and a half one way, so 3 hours total to go and just finish college. And so then, I was like, I don't know what to do. And I think the worst thing, my grandparents on my dad's side are my savior. And I remember that, I think it was Christmas or someone's maybe birthday, and everybody's supposed to gather at my dad's, and I was upstairs and I heard my grandma come in crying.
Not a good sign. What happened to grandma?
Not the best sign, no. I've never seen her like that before, because she was always our rock in the family. So when she came in, she was crying. She basically said my grandpa, who I love so much, my grandpa wasn't going to come today because of how disappointed he was and the life path I have chosen and all the things I had done. So those were
tough.
Very tough times. It was a very confronting moment. And I still was struggling to figure out how I was going to get past this. And I think one day, I remember it was like 2 months past, and one day I was on that blow up couch, or a blow up bed, laying there watching a Netflix movie, and I rose up off my back and just went, that was my fault. That was my doing. If it wasn't for the things that I did, I would not be where I am right now. And again, that was like the the best lesson through all of that situation. And it made me not regret 1 second of that situation, because if it wasn't for it, then I wouldn't have learned that. And it felt like a monkey of shame went off my back.
Shame.
Yeah. Like I'm telling you, it was in my ear, in my head at all times. And I was able to move forward. I was able to accept what has just happened, what I did, what I've done wrong, and started dribbling. I went out into my garage and started dribbling for the first time in 2 months. And my dad helped me set up some tryouts, and I tried out for a couple D2 teams, D1 teams. I got told no, I was rejected, and I tried out for a SEMO, and I didn't have the greatest tryout. It wasn't the best back then. I wasn't a really great basketball player. I did my best, but I definitely couldn't play like I play now as a guard. I was a post player, and I think
that's a difficult leap.
Yeah, I've got to dribble the ball now. No thanks. And I remember being told after a couple weeks when SEMO signed me that I was more of a charity case because I was a local player. And that was tough to hear.
Mm-hmm.
But again, all of that is fuel. All of that is okay.
Get on the fire.
Yeah. And so, I played at SEMO for a year, or for 2 years, for a year for that coach, and then a year for a second coach. And that second year with Rika Patterson, she's actually the reason I'm out in Australia now. So yeah, I would say, like, if it wasn't for all that negativity and all that time, or the reactions to the situation that happened, I wouldn't have gotten to where I am today. Like, the lesson of accountability stays with me every single day. I remember that moment of acceptance and moving forward, and I still struggle to this day with that stuff. But again, we're not perfect. We're not perfect human beings, and we're going to keep messing up and having to learn the same lessons. But fine. Like, I'm glad that happened. I'm really glad that happened.
Speaking of that, are you able to compartmentalize and push basketball stuff aside, or life stuff aside, or is it all just an integrated mess like everybody else?
Yeah, and I talk about this a lot, and I've talked to you about this, is I think it's almost impossible to compartmentalize life and basketball. I've learned it every single season of my life, and sometimes you think you can, but you can't. So it's important, especially with anything that's going on in your home life, that you work on it and you figure it out. And my past experiences with my parents growing up, it was absolutely difficult to play basketball and do that at the same time, like, and have that at home. And the relationship I had with basketball when I was growing up was very unhealthy. I started at a young age playing for fun, and then over time it became my validation. It became what it became the thing that made me feel whole. Mm-hmm. But then when I wasn't playing well, it made me feel so empty.
Yep.
Because my home life, and I didn't know how to cope with my home life. I didn't know how to deal with divorced parents, all that stuff. I didn't know how to do it. So compartmentalization is just difficult. And that's why it's so important that not even just what's going on in your home life, it's just what you're eating, how you're sleeping, how your relationships are, how your friendships are. All those things are so important for your success on the basketball court. And that's, yeah. You want to keep talking about that, you just tell me. I love that stuff. So.
No, for sure. And look, it's one of those things, a lot of people have been through that. Even just navigating basketball with divorced parents. Like, even on my side of the fence, like, mum was there almost every game. Yeah. Dad, I think the first time he actually watched me play was, my best days were already behind me. It was a social tournament. He happened to be nearby, and he actually watched my little brother play serious game before he ever saw me, and that was I was very conflicted about that, because it was that tricky thing. I was very happy for my brother, but at the same time I was like, where were you?
Yeah. It's lonely.
Yeah.
My Thankfully, my parents always supported my basketball career, but it was outside of basketball that was the hardest part. It's there sometimes, and I'm sharing this with the utmost confidence that they understand where I come from with my parents, but sometimes they chose.
Oh, my dad couldn't even spell podcast, so
Oh, good. My dad wants to start his own, so sometimes they chose their hate for each other over their love for us, and
that's deep.
Yeah, that was tough, and I choose to love them every single day. I love my parents so much, and they've grown as human beings over time, and seeing that is amazing. But back in the day, when their generation was growing up, and to hear the traumas that they've been through, and to think that at 27, 28, when my mother was having me and my brother, which was 2 or 3 years ago for me, for me to have a child right now, that would be really hard to, I'm still working on myself. And then now you have a child that you're supposed to be raising. And so I completely have empathy for my parents for this stuff, but it was impactful. Like, basketball was my escape from that negativity at home, that hate, that feeling in the air of disgust and my parents were they deflected and projected a lot of their pain. So I remember times coming home and not doing anything wrong and having a yell fest, or seeing my sister be yelled at so often. And I was the room next to my sisters, so I felt that pain she went through. I closed my door and covered my ears to not hear the negativity, and it was constant and daily. And then the hate that they had for each other was hard, because I love these guys. I love my dad, but the person that I go home with doesn't and hates him. And so I have to pretend to be these versions of myself that also just to get by, so I wouldn't get yelled at or somebody be mad at me. And so then I remember that
they'd be mad at each other and feel like it's your fault.
Yeah. They couldn't even be in the same room together. They couldn't eat after my games. There was many fights of me choosing to go have dinner with my dad instead of my mom, and vice versa, or not picking us up on time. And so now we don't get to spend time with my father, or now we don't get to spend time with my mom, or coming home. And I remember one time my brother and I discussing that we were going to act like we didn't have a good time at my family members, and it was constant and chaotic. And it made this roller coaster of a lifestyle for myself, where simplicity felt wrong and abnormal, and it carried through a lot of my life. So the basketball was perfect for it. It is chaotic and a roller coaster of emotions while you're on the floor. So it was something that felt natural and real and good. But I remember growing up and so many coaches being like, why do you get so frustrated? Why do you get so frustrated at myself? And again, I'm a child. I don't know why. I'm like, I don't know. It's just happening. And I remember growing up and reading books and going to therapy and all these things, and realizing that me missing a shot wasn't me just missing. It was my whole value, self-value, that's been relying on this, because I have no self-value at home, because I feel like nobody loves me at home, is relying on this made shot. Because when I was making shots, man, I felt like I was on top of the world. But as soon as I missed it, there went everything I am. And it would crumble me. And I would have games where I would go 25 points, and then there'd be games where I had 2. And that is why it is so important to, one, get help, especially when you're at my age and older, and you don't have that kind of resources that we didn't have that in Missouri, or we didn't have that in a small town, Patton, Missouri, trying to figure out how to deal with my problems. I reached out in college. It took me 21 years to get help. I didn't know that, and I'm still working on myself, and I still have those times where I revert back to that kind of roller coaster mentality on and off the floor. And it's a process, but I'm committed, and I'm still trying my best to get through life, clean up my life, figure my life out, have these relationships with my parents, have relationships with my friends, and and just do all these things, not just for basketball, but for my purpose. So I don't know if that was a rant, but that's what I got.
And obviously I've got my little one, and there's quite a few times where I'll open my mouth and the mum or dad's words will come out, and I'll be like, just got to stop the conversation right there, kiddo, and come here.
Yeah.
And, it sort of, there are some things I'm like, yes, this bit is amazing.
Yeah.
We need to share this, and there are other bits where definitely this needs to stop here, and that's okay.
Oh, yeah. And parents will never be perfect. To hold them to that kind of standard is.
And my sister says it the best, where if you try hard enough to not make the same mistakes, you'll make a whole fresh set.
Oh, yeah. So live and love. Mm-hmm. That's about it.
Indeed. Alrighty, back to basketball. Now, as a player, did you ever have that, oh damn, maybe I can do this sort of moment? Did someone have to convince you that you were good at basketball, or did just people not try and convince you that you weren't good at basketball?
Oh, well, it's, I thought I was so good at basketball when I was younger, and to look back and think, man, I was so bad. Like, I was so bad at basketball. I don't know where that ego came from. And I think the belief that my parents had in me really helped me too. They thought I was amazing, and I absolutely thank them for that, because I need that kind of support in basketball, and players need that from their family, and people don't have that. People don't have people showing up for their games. Like both sides of my family have come out to Australia and watched me play, and I know so many imports that don't get that. So that support helped me. So that, like, from one side of the coin, yes, like, I had so much support that made me believe in myself. And then on the opposite side, I had coaches tell me to my face I'd never be anything, and that I'm overrated, or teammates, and again, going through that kind of mental, emotional roller coaster, attitude is half the battle. And if I couldn't keep my mental focus in check, how the heck am I supposed to succeed at this? And that's why I think I've been able to play basketball till 30, is that I'm in a constant pursuit of bettering what I couldn't control. So now that I know that I have an issue, I'm going to do everything in my power to be better at it, even with failing, understanding it's okay. I'm moving forward. I'm trying to be better, trying to do my best. So, yeah.
All right. Well, we got you to talk about injury and recovery, and we probably should start talking about this season. Mm-hmm. It was quite the regular season that Northside Wizards had. It was really impressive. Just talk me through some of the highlights when you look back. Obviously, Defensive Player of the Year again. Got to be up there.
You keep bringing that up.
Well, no one else has one, mate.
I didn't even know that until you started saying it, by the way. I was like, they just started that award. I'm honored. This was my first season with the best players I've ever played with. Like, they were all so individually talented. I mean, we have Jess, who is currently a development player for Townsville. Two very good post players that are absolutely experienced at basketball, and awesome players, and some amazing shooters, amazing. It just was a great season of really great players. I would say, like, I've never been on in any regular season where I only lose one time. I've never been a part of anything like that. That was amazing to be a part of. And then finals play.
That Pirates game was amazing.
Yeah, it's my favorite one. It's my favorite Pirates game. Especially when they were cheering it and almost like they won the whole finals. That was really fun to watch. And that was like probably a low light. Going back to how home life or your outside of basketball can affect your inside of basketball. Like, at that time, and I don't know what anybody else was going through, but I was going through something very mentally straining. And as soon as we started losing, I couldn't cope. And it's like, that's why I think there's seasons for this. After that season, being able to realize that I had an issue there. I've got to work on that now. And I've had issues here, and here throughout the season. I've got to work on that now, instead of thinking man, whatever. It's everybody else's fault. It's like, no, I think I messed up there. So I'm going to work on this. So, and that's why there is highlights throughout the season though. You never want to just focus on negatives, like getting to finals, and most of our semifinal or the pre-final games where we were losing at first, and we somehow came back and won in that first finals game where we came back and won that. Like that was cool. That was really cool. Lots of smiles.
Not for the Seahawks, but
no. And I know a couple of people on that team, and it always sucks to beat people that you know, but
and that's the difficult problem with that pointy end of the season.
Yeah. Hopefully, we can just shake hands afterwards and big hugs and don't hate me. But yeah, I think it was the most successful season I've ever been a part of.
I'm glad you brought up that game because I did want to talk about it. Now, is it true that after the game, one of your teammates had to come and get you because they were gone off for a team chat and you were busy giving photos and having chats to some of the girls who were like desperate to just hang out and after the game?
The
Seahawks game.
The Seahawks game,
yeah.
Yeah, well, I was getting drug tested. Yeah, so again, why I play basketball and that relationship I used to have with it has completely changed. There are wonderful, beautiful young girls that play this game that look up to all of us, to want to one day be us. Mm-hmm. That feeling is what I live for, is my purpose of, and it's not like coming from an ego place. It's coming from, I have a position where I can continue to better myself and be the best version of myself so that these girls want to one day continue to be like me or look up to us. And and that's just something so wholesome that I want to make sure after the games, each girl understands that I'm there for them. So I was way too busy. I was going, hello, hi, trying to remember names, getting to know them. Some people made signs, and it's not just for me. Like there's other players on my team that's having the same stuff go on, but I'm always too busy chatting and high-fiving. And then all of a sudden they go, hey, by the way, you're getting drug tested. I was like, can I just sign a couple more things if I have to? No. So that was a 40-minute process after that. The first drug test I've done in Australia. Had to, label it myself. There's two people. This woman followed me the whole time I was back there. That was really interesting. I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about that. I don't know if this is
that might be a podcast in its own.
So it was funny moments. Even I had to go get my wallet and
we had to prove who you were.
Yeah, you knew I was. So I
went to the scoreboard. That's
yeah. And we get back into the locker room, and I was talking to AJ at the time. And AJ looks over my shoulder, and I'm like, she's right behind me. She's peering through the door because she's not allowed to leave I'm not allowed to leave her sight. It was one of the funniest moments, turning around being like, she's right behind me. She's looking at me. It's been like, I think Northside is a wonderful association full of so many youth that want to be mentored, want to be a part of this. And that's the kind of influence we have as NBL1 players. NBL 1, not even WNBL, NBL 1 players, that there are people out there that want to look up to us and, connect. And I love it. It's my favorite thing.
It's absolutely fantastic, isn't it? And not to, yes, you were pulled away from a drug test, but even before the game, because I was there sitting off to the side, and I noticed even in layup lines, you were going giving the ball kids high fives and different things. So walking the walk and talking the talk. I like it.
Oh,
sharing that stuff, those little moments. People are always watching, and it's very cool.
You never know if one interaction can change someone's day, and we're not here for ourselves; we're here for other people. So that's it.
Love it. All right, let's. Not too long after that, the season took a turn.
Maybe in the next 24 hours, 48 hours. Yeah.
And look, finals are on. Game 1.
Mm-hmm.
Happy enough days.
Yeah.
Yes. It was a little bit of a stretch, but you got through game 1. Game 2, Rocky comes back, all tied up. Personally, I think the Rocky fans were better off hidden with the Northside fans as opposed to right behind Rocky's bench.
Just
giving them energy the whole time. But hey.
Yeah. I remember that distinctly.
Yeah. But then game 3 happens.
Hmm.
And things are going along tight. I believe at that point, Rocky was up a little bit. You weren't injured. You put your hand in.
Mm-hmm.
Something happened.
Biggest regret of the whole game.
Fair.
Yeah.
Fair. You pulled your hand out. It was clear for everyone watching something was not okay straight away.
Yeah.
Especially the way, often when you've hit the ground, different things, you fairly well bounce up pretty quickly.
Mm.
But yeah, obviously this has happened. Did you know straight away that this is, I'm completely out of here, I'm done, or is it just sharp pain? Is there adrenaline? What's going through your mind in that moment?
Yeah, and I've had injuries before, but this was the first time I've ever blacked out from an injury. So I'm guessing this is residual because I'm gonna guess some part of Erin knew what was going on. I watched the video later to see what I did because I have no memory of what happened. So I do remember making the decision to try to poke the rebound out from Lauren's hands. Like sometimes you can sneak in there, and she is incredibly strong. She's come down with this rebound as hard as she could, and I've poked my hand through, and just my fourth finger has caught her finger. And when I remember that decision, I remember the instant pain, and then I came to with one of the refs. I was on the other side of the floor, had no clue how I got there. One of the other refs looks at me and says, "Do you need a sub?" And I was like, "For what?" And that's when I felt the entirety of the pain and the shock. And I was like, oh my gosh, what is going on? I remember the moment I looked down and I was like, at my knuckle, I'm like, oh my God, I broke my knuckle. And then I looked at the other knuckle, I was like, oh, there's not a knuckle there either. I remember those moments. But yeah, the pain was excruciating. And my hand blew up way bigger than I've ever seen it blow up. I didn't know what was wrong. I just knew something was wrong. And I remember sitting on the sideline. John, our physio, he had said, "Do you want me to try to tape it up?" And I'm like, "If you threw a ball at me right now, I think I'd vomit with pain. So no way could I play right now." And sitting there, I think being able to not do anything and watching us lose that final was that was even worse than the pain in my hand. I think that's what kept me sad and depressed and upset. So, yeah, that was a crazy moment. I would have never guessed was going to happen. Yeah.
So when did the emotions of it all kind of first overtake? Because obviously we've had conversations, we've seen some videos and different things you've recorded where the emotions are out there, they're raw. Mm-hmm. Nothing in the world wrong with that. But
yeah,
when did the emotions? When was the first one? The emotions just overtook, and it all really.
Yeah, I mean, right now, no. I would say I had so many lovely, amazing people reach out and talk to me after the game that it was a distraction of what actually had happened. So the initial injury happens. I'm sitting on the bench. I'm trying to scream and be as loud as I can to cheer them on. And every time I went to go louder, I'd start crying. And I was like, okay. I can't clap, but I'll try my best to be here. We get into the locker room. I can't even speak. I can't even fathom what has happened. I can't even make eye contact with our head coach. I am struggling to cope with what just happened. And it brings me back to times I haven't coped before. There's a voice in my head being like, get it together. But the injury had taken such a toll on my body. Like I just was deflated and I didn't have any emotion at that time. I was just an empty shell. And then I had I talked to a lot of people I care about. I had messages from my family. I had awesome people like come up and give me hugs and whatever. And then on the drive back, my buddy at the time gave me a ride because I couldn't drive. And I had him, and it hit me, and I had him stop the car, and I just wailed. And I was like, I can't believe all that happened. And it gets me emotional now because it was just such an excruciating moment of realizing that was reality. That just happened.
Having that previous experience, did that give you more, because you've been through something like that before, did that give you more hope that you're strong enough to get through it? Or in the moment, was there that fear of this could be the same situation? I could be out for 8 months.
Yeah, it's both. It's a battle. It's thinking, I can't believe this is happening again. It's the fear of those 8 months, how hard they were. And again, it's not just basketball. It's life. It's everything changes. Everything is hard now. You think when your body's healthy, you never think about how often you use both hands, how often you use your wrists. Surgeries are crazy, crazy experiences. Being told that it's not healing properly is so depleting. But then amazingly, people step in, want to be there for you, even at your worst. And that's the beauty. I had this incredible realization about validation. Incredible. And that's why I never wish away these injuries. Like the 8 months I was out, those were absolutely hard because it's constantly just, and I was coaching at the time, constantly being reminded, you're not playing. You're not playing. This sucks. This is awful. Your only thing that you have is basketball. And at that time, at the 8 months, I decided to open my B Hoops basketball kind of page and just give myself another outlet of basketball that I could actually coach kids instead of just play basketball. And that helped so much. And you realize different avenues to kind of tap into basketball without having to dribble it or trying to do all that stuff. And then even in this last moment, reflecting back on the season, reflecting back on my whole life, getting help, all that stuff has shown me that I have spent a lifetime of letting other people, other things, and basketball validate who I am as a person. And I can't wait. And like, I'm out of the injury now, but I can't wait for this future of working on validating myself for who I am. And basketball is just the profession that I play. And that's hard. That's so hard. You know how many people validate themselves in the sport that they play, or all these. I just, like, you should ask any athlete. It's like, when you have a bad game, how do you feel for the next week? When you get injured, how do you feel during that time? You feel disgustingly and devastatingly awful. That's why, like, this time when I got injured, I wanted to talk about it. I want to talk about how hard it is. I want to talk about, especially when you're an import, you don't have family that I can't go drive to my grandma's and get a big hug. I thankfully have these pseudo families that have been there for me out of nowhere. So I'm like, again, people have stepped into my life right now that I'm absolutely thankful for, that I wouldn't be able to do it for. But yeah, like this time I wanted to talk about it. This is why I'm talking to you. That's why I posted those things on Instagram. I was like, hey, this is hard. And if you want to, and I've had so many people reach out and say, hey, thank you for posting this. And if that post got one reply, that's all I need, right? That's all it's worth for. So yeah.
Yep. And that's why we're here doing this series, because this stuff just isn't talked about.
No.
Like it's almost that thoughts and prayers. Hopefully they can bounce back and they'll be back on the court real soon.
Yeah.
Move on to the next play. And
everybody's got their own lives. Yeah. It's like, if somebody reaches out to check on you, hold on to those kind of people, because they're on a train. I'm so sorry you got injured anyway. Back on the train.
Yeah. And obviously, those people that have reached out, clearly means a lot. Now, being a import player, is there anything that you've learnt through this experience, the last couple of injury experiences? What's something Erin wishes she knew in that space?
First thing that popped in my head was, it is all going to be okay. It's going to be okay. It's going to really suck, but it's going to be okay. Reach out to your family, or at least discuss with your family. If I don't reach out to me. Because there's friends even here that I haven't talked to in weeks, and they'll reach out and be like, what's going on? I haven't heard from you. And those, like, they know, because I always reach out. When I'm in a good mood, when I'm doing great, I reach out. I call, having great chats. And when they haven't heard from me, the cool ones will call me and be like, hey, what's going on with you? So, and don't be afraid to take help from anybody who's willing to give you just a piece of some kind of family feel, because that's what you need in these times. You need people to surround you. And I mean, people talk about this with depression and anxiety and all that stuff. Is like the last thing they want to do is ask somebody for help. It's
the best thing you can do. Yeah,
and that's what. But you don't feel that. No. You're like, I don't want to talk to anybody about this stuff. I don't want to talk about how sad I am. But I remember, that's why this time I was like, I remembered those 8 months were hard and I didn't talk to anybody, and I pushed everybody away and I hated everything. But then after a little bit, I realized, okay, like it's going to be okay. Reach out. Don't be afraid to overshare. I think that's a fear a lot of people have, is I've talked way too much about this. I've said this 4 times to the same person. But if you need to let it out, just let it out. Talk. It's okay. And it's gonna be all right, and it's just gonna suck. But go through the days, get the suckiness over it. Go through the suck. And at the end of it, you're gonna look back and be like, okay, I'm glad I went through that. That was hard. Hard things make me better.
Summer League, it's back, baby.
Yeah.
And you're
Elite
back.
Summer League.
Excuse me. The Elite Summer League. There is no other.
No.
Is back through 4 weeks as it currently stands. I'm tracking it. It. Don't worry. But first game, pre-game, night before, which are you feeling more? Fears about potentially another injury, all that headspace, or excitement? Yeah. Is it just a mixture of both? Is it one more than the other? What do we got?
Great question. I absolutely both. I was absolutely afraid to injure it again. With any injury I've had before, and overcoming that kind of fear is just trusting that your doctors, the surgeries, all of that, everything that you just went through, hopefully gave you back at least 90% of where you were before. And again, you will not ever know unless you try. And
it didn't work for the 76ers, but we're trusting the process.
Yes. Here we are with this. We'll try again, trial and error. So I guess it was first came back in the sense of I've went through the 2.5 months of recovery. It's time for contact sport. I had played one-on-one with one person before I had played basketball again. And so I remember on the drive there, I was so sick. I was just like, oh, I don't know what's going on. And the excitement and the care. And people always used to tell me, you're nervous because you're excited. You're nervous because you care. And that always helped me before games with being, just like that performance anxiety. Just, you know what? It's natural because you care. If you didn't care, you wouldn't feel this way. Yeah. So what are you going to stop caring? Yeah, exactly. So I was sitting there and I was going, the same buddy that I was with after the game. His name's Adam. Shout out. He's the best friend. We decided to go because he does the jerseys for the Elite Summer League. We decided to go.
Which are fire, but
they're nice. They're nice. And then I got to get the blue ones.
I'm sorry, that was the most Australian accent you've heard.
Nice.
Oh, nice.
I just wanted to make you feel comfortable. Or if I say the number 9, I go, okay, 8, 9, 10. So decided to ride together. I told him a couple times, dude, I'm freaking nervous. There's something going on. I'm excited. And all of a sudden, it doesn't even say anything. He puts Eminem on my favorite song. The one
Spaghetti?
Yeah. He's weak, man. And I just I lose myself. Yeah. Like that.
Well done.
Didn't ask him to play it. And he put that on and he knew. He was like, I've got to help her in some way. And puts that song on and I start to cry. I'm too emotional, man. I gotta stop. I gotta get it together. I start to tear up and I was like, that's all it is. That's all it is. It's just another game. I'm coming in. I've done all my workouts. I've done everything I can. And that's another thing. If you get injured, do your workouts. Don't be lazy. Do your workouts. And my hand got better. At 5 weeks instead of 6 weeks, I got to start dribbling a ball. It's that simple. Just do your workouts. It gets better. And that's all I was thinking about. It's like, I've done it right. It's going to be okay. This is my song. This is my stuff. This is my jam. And then I came in and I didn't try too hard. I didn't try to do anything I couldn't do, or I stayed out of a lot of rebounds, if I did get it.
Couldn't imagine why.
Yeah. Kind of like, you got that one. You got that rebound. But
the hell on the guard now. I'm going to be over here.
Yeah. I'll get on offense. I'll run ahead. And then
Tyler Stolberg's on your team, right? Just
dude, post up.
Yeah, get in there. That's you, Tyler.
And the team is great people, great girls, and I felt that fun again of playing together with a really good group. And
that's why it's the Elite Summer League.
It's elite, and we got the best color too. I've already had a couple people ask for the shorts. I'm like, oh wait, get away, these are my shorts. So I like that excitement and nervousness again gets transferred into you performing on the court and having fun. It's all right, it's natural. And it was a great game to be back.
Very good. All right, getting close to the end. Can't have you here and talk through the stuff we've talked through without sort of asking, what is the biggest thing you think you've had to overcome, either on the court or off the court? Is it this injury? Is it personal stuff? Going back recent. Where is it?
Yeah. Great. Another great question. I would say that when you're young and you're a sponge, the amount of habits that you learn growing up, whether it being like how you react, how you cope, how you do life things, that all is not exactly how it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be, hopefully with, if you have the perfect household, perfect parents, whatever, all of it's supposed to be easy. You get the right lessons, but it never works out that way. So I would say unlearning all of that and even realizing there was a problem. It's just like an AA, right? Like the first thing is realizing you have a problem. I didn't know that I was an issue, or I was not even an issue as a person. I just didn't know that what I was doing was wrong. And until I moved over to Australia, I was 24 years old. So I'd been living a lifestyle, living a pathway, reacting poorly to things and being on these highs and having fun. And then, having these lows and this roller coaster, because that's all I knew. That's all it was. And these times where I just thought it was natural. And my sister and I have talked about it before, that we were like, oh, we tell stories about our childhood and people are like, what? That happened? And we're like, oh yeah, it was every other Tuesday. And so like, just keeping it a little bit lighter, like not diving into that stuff, but having to deal and accept and move forward was really tough. And I think the biggest thing is getting out of that situation and seeing it from like this bird's eye kind of view. It's like looking at it as, okay, that was messed up, what I was in. And I'm glad I'm outside of it to view it for what it is. I'm going to give myself grace because I didn't know. I just had these negative reactions from people, the same way that we'd sweep everything under the rug. Like so many times when I was younger, there'd be a screaming, yelling fight, 3 a.m. about and calling us names, doing all this stuff. There'd be times where somebody would like steal our money because we didn't have enough money to buy groceries. So I've been saving money up, and one of my parents would steal my money, like all these negative things. And the next day we'd act like everything never happened. No sorries. No, I shouldn't have done that. No accountability. And everything was everybody else's fault. So when I got out and took a step out and looked at that stuff, I was like, oh man, I've got to change. And that's okay. That's okay to change. And unlearning and rebuilding has been a 6-year process and will be a process for the rest of my life. And I'm cool with that. It's like, it's not perfection. It's progress and process. And I see this past year, like the year before that, all of this, even this past injury, learning that where my validation comes from is me getting out of a situation, realizing I need to unlearn, relearn, and find different relationships, especially in the sport. Like when I decided that basketball was my profession instead of who I was, so much came off my shoulders. This is just what I do. This is not who I am. And so then this time that I've gotten injured, it's sad, it sucks, but it's not like something huge got taken away from me. Not like my whole heart got taken out. Just sucks I don't get to play a sport that, I don't get to go to work for a little bit. So that kind of change of relationship. And then before that, it was who I am. And before that, it was my escape. And it's like we have the ability and authority to change these things anytime we want, and to change ourselves and to work on ourselves and to fail. That is huge. You are going to fail all the time. I failed so many times today, right? But what I'm not going to do is keep beating myself up and make sure that I show up better the next day. That 1%. So I would say that's the biggest thing I overcome, is to start off by getting out of a situation, accepting the situation as it was, moving forward and unlearning and rebuilding myself in a version that I'm proud of every single day. And again, I have days where I'm not. I'll show up to practice. I'm way more chippy than I should be. I've said the wrong thing. I've done the wrong thing. And my biggest thing is I don't go home and blame everybody else for it. It's my fault. I need to change. I need to be better. And so, yeah, I would just say that's what's important about being a basketball player, is we have such a big influence. Understand what our influence is, and just be better as much as you can, and give yourself grace when you're not the best you are. So.
Yeah, it sounds like if we've got mirrors all around us, but sometimes it's hard to reflect.
Yeah, man.
When you can.
Do it when you can. Yeah, there you go.
And sometimes it is us.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not the world.
Yeah.
And if it's always the world every single time,
no. Well, you can't change the world. No. You can't change one thing. I could force you, maybe I could tie you down and force you, but the one thing you can control is yourself, how you react, and your mentality. And again, not perfect. You're not going to be perfect, and it's going to be okay. But love people, do what's best for other people, and yeah, you'll be fine.
Now, we've obviously talked a lot about you and your journey, not just your injury, because let's be honest, there's more to people than just the injury.
Mm. Yeah.
Now, holistically, is that something that's always sort of been there, or is this more of a newer thing since you've been through a couple of injuries where you've been able to separate yourself from some of the stuff that happens on the basketball court?
Yeah, I would say a lot of when you go through hardships, that's when you really realize who you are. And that's when I started asking questions of, where is this coming from? Where is this pain coming from? Where are these reactions? Where are these things happening? And that's why I think it's important that you don't just see what's going on right now in this moment. You have to also, revert back to, who was I? How was I raised? What are these things that are habits at this point? Why do I struggle with this? And it all comes from, experiences you've gone through over time. So that's why I think it's incredibly important to get to know yourself, what you've been through, and how that could, trigger you in the future. Why you, especially on the basketball court, why is this like a roller coaster of emotions for me? And that's why I always talk about this. Let's talk about our past. Let's talk about some things that might have brought you to here. Why do we hold ourselves to such a high standard? That has to come from somewhere. So even with these injury, so when these injuries have happened, that's when these big questions have been brought forward. Because again, I'm not distracting myself every day playing basketball. I'm like, okay, what is this? Why am I struggling to get over this? So yeah, that's I think my biggest thing is remember why you are who you are. And then that can help you during these times where, it's not going that well for you.
All right. Look, let's close it out. Couple of bullet points. What are the short sharps you want other people who might be going through this kind of, through an injury or something like that to know, or what would you have liked younger Erin Bollmann to have known before this process?
Okay. I would say number one is, if I could tell it, young, wonderful Erin.
Buy stock in Tesla.
Yeah, exactly. My first point would be that 10% of becoming a better basketball player is on court. Mm-hmm. And the rest of it, the 90%, would be how you treat yourself, loving yourself, what you eat, how you sleep. Think more of those things than how much consciously you can do on court. And then secondly, I would say who you are waking up without a basketball in your hand, with an injury, anything, you are absolutely enough. You have no one can ever make you question that. You are enough, and live life that way.
Deep. I like
okay?
it. Very good.
Awesome.
Very good. Right, Erin, thank you very much for jumping on the couch, sharing, opening him up, and it's been real.
Awesome. Thank you so much. What you're doing is awesome. I want you to know that, and this stuff is going to change lives. So thank you.
Thank you.